Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. So of course, at the end of the episode, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, please let me know this week's pick of the week so you have a chance to be featured in the episode. Now, before we jump into all these comic books, I do have a Kickstarter going on right now called Slice of Life. It's actually a webtoon I've been doing for a couple of months with my co-writer Phil Falco, and this is about an anime character who comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader. Hopefully you guys could go check it out. It's a lot of fun, and you get a physical version, trading cards, plush dolls. There's a lot of great stuff on the Kickstarter. Now, jumping into this week's comics, we had 9 books, so a pretty small haul number-wise for me. Number 9 for me was trying out Scott Snyder's newest comicsology book called Night of the Ghoul, issue 1. And I enjoyed the first one that came out, the Demons book. I actually enjoyed a lot, and hopefully when it comes out in Dark Horse, I will get a physical version of that. I wasn't so into Clear, the second series, and now this third series, I liked a little more than Clear, but not enough to really want to pick up the series. I do think it's very much geared to people who like old school horror movies, which is something I appreciated, but wasn't really in my wheelhouse. So it just wasn't for me. The tone wasn't for me as well. So honestly, that's the reason why I probably won't get the second issue. But I like this one structurally a little bit more than the second one. But again, not as much as the Demon series. So that is my number 9 pick, and moving into number 8. Number 8 for me is Batman issue 115. We're getting closer and closer to the end of James Tynion's run on Batman. We also got to see a little sneak peek of Batgirls, which is pretty cool. I will say the story is somewhat forgettable, but I do like seeing Stephanie and Cassandra and just their rapport, and hopefully we get to see some bigger plot lines for them as their series goes out. And also, when we talk about Nightwing, they have a little bit of a connection there as well. But yeah, this issue, it moves a little bit further with the Poison Ivy and Gardner stuff and how she's connected to Fear State. We get a little bit more between Miracle Molly and Batman, but honestly, not enough for me to feel invested in this event. I just want it to honestly end because I just want to see what the next chapter will be for Batman. I just feel like it's been stalling a little bit to get to that next chapter. So hopefully we do get a good conclusion here, but so far it just kind of has been sluggish to me. And the artwork for this issue was honestly a little inconsistent. I do like Jorge's art style a little bit more. This was a little bit cartoonier than I normally enjoy for my Batman books, but I do think this was slightly stronger than what we've been getting, but still not really a 3-star book for me. So I'm going to give that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is The Death of Doctor Strange, issue 2. Now, I'm honestly only picking this up because I want to see who the next Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme is going to be. I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan, but I like the idea of getting someone else on the mantle. I'm also not a big Magic fan, so this kind of deters me a little bit from the second issue. Issue 1 was planting the seeds, setting up the scene, and it was a little bit more entertaining there. Here we get to see the aftermath, and normally that would be fun, but because we have the death of Doctor Strange, and then right after we get to see another Doctor Strange take over as a detective. Yes, it's a twist on the normal detective story you would get, and playing with those cliches, but in comics we really don't get a lot of great deaths where they are permanent and they feel like deaths and feel like there's consequences. So to have, Doctor Strange die and then have another Doctor Strange pop up, it goes back to the idea of some comics, especially mainstream comics, doesn't really feel like they have consequences. I didn't really get to miss Doctor Strange to care about his death and who's going to take over Sorcerer Supreme. And I feel like this honestly really deterred me to want to read the rest of the miniseries. I still want to get up to issue 5, again, just to see who is taking over the mantle and what direction that's taking. But I just not as interested in the detective story as I thought I would be with Doctor Strange being missing, or dead. Artwork is good for this series, though, and I think if you enjoy magic, it gives a good narrative there, but as a mystery fan, detective fan, I don't think it is as strong. So I'm giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. We'll see if I get issue 3 or skip to get issue 5 at all. We'll see where that goes. Moving on to number 6, which is Thor, issue 18. I think this is a new arc, but it also kind of feels like things are slowing down a little bit, where we take our time for Thor to team up with the people he needs to team up to get his hammer back and find out who has it. The beginning is between Loki and Thor, and honestly, that was the part that I thought was the weaker aspect. We've seen the Thor and Loki conversation before. I thought the artwork, honestly, was a little too cartoony. It wasn't the strongest I've seen from the series, and especially for a series that tends to have a little bit of a darker palette, where I think the Pet Avengers actually did have that darker palette, and that's where this issue started to pick up for me, where we got to see Throg and his crew, and him, like, talking to Thor, saying, I'm gonna help you find your hammer. I like those interactions a little more, even though it's very set-up-y. It's just literally him getting everyone together to be the Pet Avengers again. I just like the humor and the contrast between Thor and Loki talking and Thor talking to a frog. So I enjoyed the tone there. I thought the art style was a little better there as well. I believe there are 2 artists for this book, and I thought that was stronger. So I'm giving that 3 stars. We'll see where this arc ends up going. Hopefully it won't be a filler arc, but honestly, there's been some really good one-off issues leading up to this, so I'm excited to see where this is going to go. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Refrigerators Full of Heads, issue 1. I absolutely adored Basketful of Heads. I'm a huge slasher fan, and this brings every slasher vibe that you enjoy, with the twist of the weapon being an axe, and a magical axe. And this one is completely new reader friendly. You don't really need to read Basketful of Heads to understand this. It's a new crew, new set of people, new couple, and by the end you have this bombastic action sequence where they are fighting sharks and finding the hammer that I believe is connected to the original because it was in the water. I honestly don't remember what year it took place, the original, but I'm guessing there's some connections there. So they find the axe in the water. They cut off a shark's head. So usually it's a human head where they get to talk to you. This time the shark's still alive with its head off, and that's the cliffhanger of the issue. And honestly, it's just fun horror antics and action with this issue. I don't know if it really built up the couple well enough, but I just had a fun time with this issue. I do feel like the artwork was a little stronger in that first series. I don't know if it's the same artist or not, but I thought this one felt a little more rushed. But overall, like I said, had a really good time with it, and really excited to see what issue 2 is going to do. So giving that 3.5 stars, and then is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 4. They definitely try to cram a lot into this issue. We have the main villains, I guess we'll say, of John trying to figure out with Jay more of a journalistic storyline and why these heroes or these people are being taken control of. We get to see the Justice League in this issue. Mom and Pa Ken's house burns down. Jay and John are kind of flirting with each other, kind of not yet. I'm sure in the next issue we'll get that. And then obviously John just dealing with the weight of his dad leaving. So there's a lot going on, which normally I'd be like, oh, this is a jam-packed issue. But I actually feel like maybe too much was going on in this issue. I do think that maybe one storyline could have been taken away and this could have been a smoother issue. But I love seeing Tom Taylor, Daniele team up again. They do their own series at Boom Studios with Seven Secrets. I absolutely adore that book. So to see them working on Superman and a mainstream book, that was a lot of fun. And overall, I think it was a solid build up to obviously something that's going to be a big issue with the reveal of John being bisexual for the next issue. And yeah, seeing what type of hero John's going to end up being. So also reveal that Jay has powers. So that was interesting too. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars. It was cool to see some Suicide Squad characters as well, and just seeing all of the Tom Taylor verse kind of bleed together in this issue. So that is my number 4 pick, and I gave that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 3, which is Catwoman, Lonely City, issue 1. A book I was really looking forward to. I love Cliff Chang's everything, his artwork, and now I guess I could say his writing as well, because I really enjoyed this issue. Honestly, one of my only negatives for this was the format. I don't love these prestige magazines. They're harder to read. I don't know what to do with them in my long boxes, so I don't love it. I have to debate if I'm going to get a physical or digital, because I really don't ever know what to do with these books. Even though I really like this book and I want to have a physical, maybe I'd rather have a trade. I don't know. But anyways, going to the story itself. Catwoman Lonely City takes a very different direction for Catwoman. This is like 10 years after her prime. She's been in jail because everyone thought she killed Batman. She didn't kill Batman. That's what's revealed in the end of the issue. The pacing of that is beautiful. You know, we get some little seeds in the beginning, and they're like, okay, what did happen to Batman? Then you get the scene by the end. I thought the pacing of this book in general was really, really good, the way they weaved that. And what I like is, yes, we've seen the story before. We've seen the old man Logans. We've seen the old man Harleys. We've seen the old man everything. Or old woman Harleys. We've seen these stories before, but a lot of times it is for bigger characters. And I'm not saying Catwoman is not a big character, but it's usually for the Batmans. It's for the Wolverines, because they have 10 other series. Of course, you need an old man series as well. So it was kind of nice to see a Catwoman older, which we've seen a couple of times. I think the Batman Catwoman series is doing that with Tom King, but a lot of times when we see it, it always has to do with her marriage with Batman or her relationship with Batman. And to see a Catwoman older and have to do with herself, and yeah, it kind of is a little bit connected to Batman, but it's mostly her story. That's what felt unique to me. And to see this kind of world develop without Batman and Catwoman still being a bad person, I guess. You know, people seeing her as a bad person, but still playing the line of the anti-hero. She didn't actually hurt anybody, and people are pinning this on her. But she's still teaming up with the Penguin and still talking to Two-Face. But then she also talks to Oracle, and that was really fun to see where Barbara's been. And really the Bat family dying. The Bat family doesn't exist in Gotham. What does Gotham look like with that? And what does Catwoman's life look like that? It just had a really good introduction to this world. The artwork is fantastic as always, and honestly, I was really, really impressed with Cliff Chang's writing here as well. Everything was married well. It just felt like a great glimpse into a new world that I'm super excited to jump into. I can't believe we have to wait until December for the second issue, but I really enjoyed this one. So giving that 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. So moving on to number 2, which is Fantastic Four, issue 37. Another home run from this series. I've been absolutely adoring Fantastic Four, and this is just a one-off. This is a one-off issue, which last issue was too, and I love that as well with Human Torch. And this is just a Halloween issue, but it does so much more than being a Halloween issue. It could have easily been a trick-or-treat story, but every character, for the most part, gets a lot of development. We get to see the Human Torch talking to Spidey, figuring out what his life is after all the issues that he's had, and also is continuing to have with being in this suit and not being able to interact with his family as much. We get to see the heart of this issue being Alicia and Ben's children, and just what it means to be a family, and them doing just normal trick-or-treating and taking that too far, and how that ties into their more traumatic childhood. So I really enjoyed that, and just seeing the love of the family. But then we also get the tie-in of some of these bigger, larger stories that I'm sure will connect later, with Mr. Fantastic dealing with his dad having so many secret families, and also not knowing who his sister was, and not feeling like enough, and not feeling like his dad loved him, and seeing Sue comfort Reed in that regard. I love that moment. And honestly, it's just such a well-rounded issue, good artwork, and just good storytelling. It's a one-off, but it didn't really feel like a one-off. It just was paced so well, this issue. So overall, giving that 4.5 stars, and that is my number 2 pick. Now, this was a tough one. Like, my top 3, I enjoyed all 3 issues a lot. But I picked number 1 as Nightwing issue 85. I mean, I'm a huge Barbara Gordon fan, so of course I'm gonna pick this. And honestly, you know, I think Nightwing in general, Tom Taylor's run has been a love letter to Nightwing, but this proves that it's also a love letter to the Bat family, and this one's a love letter to Batgirl, and it opens up with, literally, I love this line, and it's repeated I think twice, where she's like, I was Batgirl and then I wasn't, and then it talks about like her giving the mantle to Stephanie and Cassandra, and her having to take over being Batgirl again to go up against this thing that she kind of created in a way. Anti-Oracle, where she, she's built an empire as Oracle, and she even goes back to like, yeah, I was hurt and that story wasn't even mine. So really digging into the past there with that, and I just thought it was really beautifully written to showcase, no, this is Barbara's story, and Anti-Oracle and her this person being a villain is gonna be her battle to pick. And by the end, we don't know what happens to Cassandra and Stephanie. I'm sure they're fine. They have a series coming up. And I don't know why they're continuing it in a Batman series instead of this issue. But yeah, I just adored Nightwing and Batgirl's team up. But it was Dick Grayson kind of taking a seat, passenger seat here. Don't know why I couldn't find the words there. But yeah, passenger seat, where he's not really the lead of this issue. It really is Barbara kind of taking charge of the fight and him just helping her. And then, maybe rekindling their relationship. I feel like every issue has been, maybe Barbara and Dick Grayson will rekindle their relationship. But, they kiss here. You could obviously see that they love each other. There's some good flashbacks with them as well. And I thought Robbie Rodriguez's artwork worked really well here. It brought a very Spider-Gwen vibe, which honestly, I feel like a lot of the tone here felt very Spider-Gwen in some regards, at least the angstiness of it. And it really worked here. And I liked Barbara's new costume. Overall, it was a really well done issue. As a Barbara Gordon fan, it was everything I wanted. And I'm curious to see where Barbara's character is going to go within this series and all the rest as well. And this whole Anti-Oracle story is definitely my favorite of Fear State so far. So I'm giving that 4.5 stars, and that is my number one pick. Be sure in the comments below to let me know what your number one pick was, because we are up to the viewer's pick. And honestly, there were so many comments about this. It was unanimous for sure that it was Immortal Hulk issue 50 for you guys. And here are some comments about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.